All right, Player Development Pod family, we are in person. I am here with the Director of Player Engagement, Fernando Velasco.
Absolutely,
yeah,
man.
From the Atlanta Falcons. So, first one in person. Hope y'all enjoy it. Thank you for making time. We are here in ATL. Look out. So, y'all know me. So, Fernando, if you mind telling us about yourself.
First of all, man, thank you for allowing me to be in here. Just thank you for taking time to interview an old kid from Rennes. You know, that's my Instagram handle. That's my hometown where I'm from, man. You know, I'm just a country boy that God has blessed mightily. You know, I've been blessed. I played in the NFL for 8 years after I played football at Georgia. And, you know, from there, I've been in player development ever since. And so it's been a blessing, man.
That's good. So, you say you've been in player development ever since. Who was that person to get you into it? Who was that person to kind of get that thing going for you?
Man, you know what? Just growing up, for me, what I saw from my 2 high school coaches, you know, was that, hey, this is how I can impact others because of the impact that they had on me. So when I got to college, I actually got my degree in health and PE. And the goal was to be a high school PE teacher and football coach. Yeah. That was it. But kind of the higher I went, the more exposure I got. Yeah, I actually learned about player development from a lady by the name of Tina Tuggle with the Tennessee Titans.
Nice.
She was actually director of player development when I came into the league. And, you know, her office was right outside of the locker room. So just going in there and having a space to communicate. She kept the team clinician in there. And it was just a space to do life. And she did life with us. But in year 5, I actually went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. And it was a guy by the name of Ray Jackson.
Broncos.
Broncos, yeah. So he's with the Broncos now. He's the VP of Player Engagement there. But, you know, that was in 2013, actually year 6 in the league. And it was a tough year for me. Mm-hmm. It was a tough year for me. I tore my Achilles during the contract year. You know, I was starting at center, playing well. My father, who's deported, got a chance to see me for the first time. But right before I got on the plane to go to London, you know, I got a call that one of my best friends had committed suicide. And so just kind of dealing with that hitting me, and especially after I tore my Achilles, you know, I didn't really know what direction to go. And so those pills that they gave me for my Achilles, man, I was just popping those pills and drinking a bottle of Hennessy every day. You know, that's kind of how I cope with it. But Ray put his hand around me. He did life with me. Just let me know that I was more than a football player, whether my career extended upon that point or not, that he was right there with me. And so from that moment, I knew, hey, this is the type of impact that I want to make on young men's lives. So whenever my football days are over, you know, I want to jump into player development. So thank God that when I was done, Kirby Smart hired me onto his staff at Georgia.
Let's go. Man, I appreciate you sharing that. And I know we previously talked, kid from Rennes and all that background. I think that's important in how people get in this role. And some of you all listening, you know, I know there's a lot of people that want to get in this role. And it's just, this role is so much more. And it's the basis of it is care. And hearing you talk about how, you know, Ray Jackson took care of you as a player, man. And how Miss Tuggle and then your coaches. And it's like, that's what I tell people all the time. It's relationship building and care. And so appreciate you sharing that. Now, you went back to your alma mater.
Yes, sir.
Man, sir. It's a few people that. How was it to go back to Georgia? Probably what? And before I ask that, when y'all scored on Florida and Coach Rick sent the whole team out there.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Were you what? Okay, was that was y'all knew that was gonna happen?
Well, no. So the plan was actually, you know, the week before we kind of was struggling. We needed some mojo on offense. So Coach Rick just said, hey, when y'all score this first touchdown, you better be so excited that we get a penalty. So he really didn't orchestrate anything. You know, on the offensive side of the ball, we already had kind of a plan. Whoever would score the touchdown was just going to get up and actually act like they was taking pictures of everyone else. Right. But while the offense was driving, the defense kind of came up with this plan that they were just going to rush the field. And so they did that. So originally, I thought it was a fight going on or something, you know, just being on the field. Yeah. But, man, it was fun. It was a fun time. We needed that. You know, Florida had been kicking our butts for the last few years, and we just needed to kind of do something to get ourselves over the hump. So fortunately, we won that game, you know, because that would have been a bad deal if they would have came back and beat us.
Yeah.
But we won that game, and it was a good time.
You were not the one walking it out.
No, that was not me. That was one of our freshman offensive tackles, Trent Sturdivant. But they called my number.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people thought that was me. But I don't have the dance skills that he has. So
every time I watch it, I guess it's like when Gary Danielson was like, there's Fernando Velasco.
Yeah,
I don't think that's him.
It was cool. It was actually a fun moment, and it brought us together closer as a team. Yeah. We went on a good run after that and finished number 2 in the country.
Nice. Now, going back to, this place, blood, sweat, and tears, like, how was it, like, coming back and being in that role to help players? How was that experience for you?
Definitely a full circle moment, because one thing that I was blessed at Georgia, I had so many men around me that poured into me. Growing up with my father being in prison and my grandfather being late in his years, I really didn't have any positive men that really pour into me. But once I stepped foot on campus, everyone from the team chaplain, Tommy Settles, to Brian Gant, to Mark Rick himself, just taking in a young 18-year-old kid that was lost, that really didn't have true direction on what he wanted to do in life, and just helped molding and shaping me. So I will always be indebted to the University of Georgia and what it did for me. But coming back after the league with a little bit more experience, with a little bit more maturity upon my belt, and to be honest with you, to get a chance to work for a guy like Jonas Jennings, it was such a blessing for me to be able to learn from him for 3.5 years, to see how Kirby Smart just run his organization, just how intelligent and smart that he is. Man, that man's a genius, man, and he holds everybody to a certain standard. So it was good for me. And I think, to your point earlier, you talked about relationships. Because I went to school there, I had relationships outside of the building, on campus, in the community, and that helped me better serve the athletes.
Yeah, I like that. Now, before we get into roles and responsibilities, because I think that one's really huge, because you went from being under a director to being a director, leading people, to going to the NFL. So we'll talk about that. But how would you define player development?
Service. That's what we say all the time. We're just here to serve. Whatever it look like. And, when you're dealing with 100 athletes, on the NFL level, 53 plus the practice squad, give you 69. When you're dealing with that many individuals, it looks different for everyone. Service for one guy may be, finding resources to help him buy a new car. Service for another guy could be talking about fatherhood, or, just having the first child. Whatever it looks like, it may be some helping one guy transition. But how can I serve, and how can I put myself outside of me to better serve that person?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Service is huge. Now, roles and responsibilities. This one is big. A lot of y'all see the role. A lot of y'all want to be in the role. But one thing I love about what you said, like, you came in and, you could have commanded a director role coming out of the league, but you spoke about being underneath Jonas Jennings. Shout out to you, Jonas. I've never met you. I've heard great things.
That's all right.
Shout out to Ray Jackson. I've never met you. Heard great things. Shout out to Miss Tuggle. I never heard about you, but I'm about to research you now. But anyway, you came underneath Jonas and learned, and that's something that your LinkedIn is probably filled up with messages, and I tell a lot of students and younger professionals, like, it's good to get under somebody and learn, because, like, my role was different. I went for high school coach, and I was at the group of 5 level, but got thrown in director. But I kind of was like, what? Well, it took me 1.5 to 2 years to figure out what it is. So if you could walk us through your roles and responsibilities when you were under Jonas, how they changed when you became a director, and then leading a team. Danny Wheeler, what's up, Danny? And then Lauren Hawkins, man, I appreciate you. Hey, Lauren, hey, I'll be shouting out Lauren on the podcast. Lauren, appreciate you so much. When Lauren got the job, I appreciate you, because I text you, was like, man, please take care. I knew you would, and shout out to you, Lauren.
I know you running things over there in Arkansas, man. She does a great job.
Yes, and then so we'll talk about leading people, and then you transition. We could jump into, let's do this. Look, y'all, it's first one in person, so. Hey, we're going to rock. All right, let's start with your roles and responsibilities when you were at Georgia.
Jonas gave me a lot of autonomy. From day one, the first thing that he said to me after he gave me the rules and the compliance and kind of all that, he just said, "Be you." God has uniquely defined you to be in this position, to be in this role. So use your personality, use your skill set, use your experience to just help serve these guys. So after he kind of gave me the ropes, the lay of the land per se, he allowed me to lead the daily academic meetings, which is a big part.
That's huge.
Because just being that liaison between the coaches and the academic staff, so we would meet every single day to talk about, this player, that player from an academic standpoint, what they need to turn in, how they're sitting grade wise. So, he allowed me to lead that meeting. And that was awesome for me. I learned so much about just the academia standpoint, and Georgia being the rigorous university that it is, a lot of standards there.
Right.
But also allowed me to have different conversations with different players, pull them aside to just kind of talk about where they're at from a grade standpoint. Allowed me to communicate with the coaches, and where this player sits at, but also allowed me to have and build a relationship with the academic team,
right?
And also professors around campus. So, that one piece helped me so much. From time to time when he was doing parent visits, parent presentations on official visits or unofficial visits, he would allow me to speak and just kind of give my input in there. So I'm forever indebted to Jonas, just for his leadership and the things that he allowed me to do, that was outside of the job description, for an assistant. He put me in position that when I got the call to Arkansas, I knew I was ready because of everything that I had did, at the University of Georgia, how he allowed me to have FaceTime with the coaches, whether it's to hire people within the athletic department, whomever it was, he just kind of allowed me to do me.
See, I appreciate you saying that, because one thing, I like Jonas empowered you, which is I think that's huge in that role.
Absolutely.
And that's something that, like I said, shout out to Lauren. I never had nobody underneath me, but I'd be like, "All right, Lauren, you going to this meeting?" She'd be like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, you got it. I'm about to go to campus. You got to run this."
And not only are you going to this meeting, but listen, while you in this meeting for a purpose.
Correct.
So it's your responsibility to speak up.
Right.
For
the department, like you are represented. Don't call me.
Absolutely.
So the empowerment. But then I know you're about to touch it, but another thing I tell a lot of people in the role, they may be coordinators, they may be even interns, GAs, and player development. Access to the coaches. Access to the coaches. Now we about to talk about it. You know where I'm about to go.
Absolutely.
But having that access to the coaches and that FaceTime with the coaches, and this was something that I really personally, I love that Jonas did that for you. I did that for Lauren. So because it's misconceptions of women in sports. And so I would say, "Hey, Lauren, here's the situation." And she would say, "Well, we figured out a situation with a player. We had to communicate with the coach." She's like, "So what you going to tell him?" I said, "Well, this is you're about to go in there because he needs to see that, and you're going to say, 'Hey, coach, you address him this way, but like you said, be you, and just this is all you communicate.'" And so after a while, coaches was going to Lauren, and Lauren was like, "Hey, we got to handle this." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I love that. But now let's talk about your transition to Arkansas and how that happened, how that was facilitated at Georgia.
It goes back to just service.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was at Georgia for 3.5 years, and little did I know that offensive line coach Sam Pittman had been watching me. Had just kind of been watching the way that I was leading, interacting with the guys, the way I was dealing with different coaches, the way I was handling the staff, administrators, the academic staff. Had just kind of been watching me, and he got the head coaching job at the University of Arkansas, and he asked me if I would come lead his department. Never before then had we had any kind of conversation about, hey, when I get a head job, you're going to be my guy. Truly, I was being where my feet are and trying to be the best assistant director that I possibly could.
Right.
I wasn't trying to do anything to undermine Jonas. He was empowering me. We was working tag team together, and it was just a blessing. Actually, shout out to Jonas again. He's the one that kind of put the stamp on it when Coach Pittman called him, about me. So that led me to go and lead a department and hire someone up under me. So it was a great deal.
Yeah. So I have the Jonas stamp is real.
Oh, 100%.
So shout out to you, Jonas, once again. I'm gonna keep the guy's name. Actually, he's here in Atlanta, so some of y'all can figure out what university. But he interviewed at Georgia.
Yeah, I know.
And
Absolutely.
he didn't. They went another route.
Yeah.
But once again, a assistant coach from Georgia got a job. Called Jonas. Jonas stamped the guy. Now the guy's leading player development there. So I just like I've never met Jonas. I think we text one time. And I know he jumped on a call, but like I love when people are putting other people in. So Jonas has a player development tree.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it is, and that's where the service mentality comes from for me. And I think when you're a service leader, a person of service, you know, everything that you do is about service. So you know it goes beyond Georgia football for Jonas. You know the things that he do in his hometown, in his community, in College Park. You know, he gives a turkey drive to senior citizens every single year. You know, and we talking about the hood where he grew up at.
Right.
That's just who he are. That's just how he built. And so I'm very, very appreciative of him and what he's done for me in my life. You know, we're still super close, man. He was just in my wedding last year. I'm always calling him, even now, for different advice, or just more so, he just still pours into me. You know, so very appreciative of Jonas.
Awesome. Now you go into the director role, your responsibilities change. Can you talk about how your role and responsibility changed, and then you were able to hire a few people? So talk about going from being the greatest assistant director you could be to like, oh, this is my show.
No, man, you know, you want to be a good steward.
Right.
You want to be a good steward, you know, and you want to, when you're an assistant person on the staff, when you're not the head coach or you're not the athletic director, you know, you're on this staff of people. It's your job to make the person at the top of the chain look good. So my responsibility was to do everything that I could to make Sam Pittman be successful in that role while serving the student athletes. You know, I knew his heart. I knew how he cared for his athletes. I knew how he kind of just wanted to run his program. You know, we had many conversations about it after he hired me. And so as I'm looking to hire someone up under me, they must fit that same mold. You know, they must be a person that want to serve. You know, it has to be bigger than them. You know, it's not about the shine or the glory that you get from this position. It's about how you can empower and help someone else along the way. So the first person I was able to hire was a guy by the name of Joe Carter. Shout out to Joe, man. Joe was my intern. He was my intern, and now he's at Mississippi State in operations, doing a great job over there. But Joe, man, he helped me out, and as I was figuring out how to be a director, he was my ears and eyes, and you know, did a lot of admin stuff for me. So he just helped me. You know, we wanted to hire Danny earlier, but the university went on a COVID freeze, a hiring freeze during COVID. So, you know, after I got the job, it was 2020. So we had to wait a full calendar year to get Danny on board. But we identified as Danny as someone, you know, with a special talent.
Right.
You know, he has a heart of gold. He always want to help people. You know, Danny and I, we've been knowing each other since before we went to college. We was college roommates, you know, but more so than a relationship, I knew he was capable.
Right.
You know, he was down on the NIA Division II rim in football, and he was the director of football operations. He was player development. He was a linebacker coach. He was the recruiting coordinator. So I know he had the ample skills and the people skills, and you know, was able to build relationships with everybody in the building to come in and do a good job. So he interviewed with Coach Pittman and then was able to get the job, and he did a great job for us. And you know, when I got the call to go to the Falcons, you know, it was not a doubt in my brain that he wasn't ready to become director. And since I've left, he's taken over there, and just anything that I ever did there, he's took it and ran with it 10 times over. So, you know, but I think the main thing in being in the role from a director versus an assistant is you get to, I talk about it from, you get to go up into the balcony.
Yeah.
You know, not being in the trenches on a day-to-day, but you get to go in the balcony and look down at it from a holistic standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, you get to look at each player that you're serving from a holistic standpoint. Okay, how can I attack Ed this way?
Right.
What programs would be needed, you know, to help Ed? You know what? Let me ask Ed. Ed, what do you need?
Right.
You know, and so I think when you're an assistant, you're so in the trenches. You're putting out fires here on a daily basis. You know, but when you come director, you know, it's more of a holistic standpoint. I want to look down and kind of see what I can do to best serve everybody that touches the player.
I appreciate you sharing that because it's, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, like, I know it became a lot to me when I went from, and I talked about this in a podcast episode earlier that you can catch right here, or maybe it'll be, it's up here somewhere. It's up here
It's in the cloud. It's in the cloud somewhere.
It's somewhere. But going from Houston to Kansas, it's like, oh, snap. Like, oh, I'm in the meetings that people used to give me notes about the meetings.
That's right.
It's like, and they asked me, like, so what you want to do? And I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to, like, go back home, like, oh, okay, let me, you know, I'm getting in this meeting. I got to be prepared to, like,
100%.
have a solution because they going to ask me. So appreciate you sharing that. What was before we moved to going to Falcons, in the role, what was the one thing that going from an assistant director to director that kind of caught you off guard? Like, oh, snap, this actually, I wouldn't, you know, this one kind of got me. Any role or responsibility?
Ooh, that's a really, really good question. That's a really, really good question. And for me, you know, we've been giving flowers to people all episode, and especially Jonas. I think he put me in such a place. Like I was blessed. I was fortunate.
Right.
I was fortunate. Like I had the title of assistant director, but Jonas allowed me to really, really run a lot. You know, which says a lot about his leadership skills. And Coach Pittman mirrored a lot of things that Coach Smart was doing at Georgia.
Gotcha.
So I was kind of familiar with it. Like I had the cheat code. I can't lie. I was
ain't mad at
blessed. You know, I had the cheat code. So as far as catching me off guard, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head that kind of caught me off guard. You know, because the way Kirby Smart did things, he challenged the player development department to anticipate every single thing. And so Jonas has an amazing quote that he always say, you know, we got to stay 4 ties, 1 flight, 2 steps ahead of everything.
I like that.
You know, with that, it was just almost trying to be forward thinking with everything that can come up. You know, now you're going to have things that come up that you can't be 100% on, but when those times come, leaning on your people around you to get it done.
Well, I appreciate you. Now, here we go. Let's go for the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow, look at that, man.
Yeah, come on. Look at God.
Look at God.
So talk about the transition there, because it was interesting. So I spoke to you before, and we had chopped it up, and then like a week later, I was like, I can't remember. I think you might have texted me like, "Hey, I'm going to Falcons." I was like, "Oh snap!" So talk about like that transition to the Atlanta Falcons.
Man, you know, the former head coach here, Arthur Smith, who I have a lot of respect for, he was on the staff when I played for the Titans. And so, you know, when this role came available, you know, we talked and got a chance to meet Terry Fontenot, the GM here, spent the day with him. Unbelievable guy, you know. But in the back of my mind, you know, I always knew that the NFL level, you know, was kind of something that I would strive for.
Right.
Not just to say you work in the NFL.
Right.
I mean, for me, it was more so, hey, the impact. You know, I want to challenge myself. A lot of people say, hey, man, you can't have an impact in that role on the pro level. But I call BS on that because I knew the impact that Ray Jackson, that Tina Tucker had on my life.
Right.
And so I wanted to challenge myself to be able to serve the pro players in the same manner, man. So I was blessed and fortunate to get this role. And so we've been rocking ever since September of 22.
Let's go. All right, so you went through a coaching transition, and that happens in the role. That happens in football, happens in sports. It's one of the unfortunate things of the business. How did you go about that in your role, and how do you help players in that? And even, not even coaching transition, there's so much transition and transactions in the NFL. How do you go about that in the role, helping players through all of that?
I think because there's so many transactions that happen in this role, and that's a feeling I never want to get numb to.
Right.
I was cut 7 times as a player myself. So each time, a player comes in my office after being cut, like the empathy that I have for them, like I remember what that felt like. I remember being told I wasn't good enough to do this anymore. I remember saying, hey, your services are no longer wanted here.
Right.
So I remember that feeling, and I never want to forget that feeling. And I never want to get numb to the fact of, that person on the other side of that conversation is not a real person,
right,
instead of just a transaction. So, I take it serious, man. I really try to check on the guys from a mental standpoint, because I just told you, back when I got injured, how from a mental standpoint, I didn't understand the word back in 2003,
right,
but that was my first time experiencing depression. This game that I've been playing since I was 7 or 8 years old has been taken away from me. So really, not only the guys that get released, but also the guys that get injured. Especially when it's a season-ending industry, that we have to really be mindful and check on them and make sure they're in the right space. But from a coaching transaction standpoint, that was actually my first time going through it. And so that caught me off guard. Talking about catching you off guard. Now that one caught me off guard. But what did I do? I leaned into the people around me.
Right.
I called my guy Ray Jackson,
right,
because I know he had dealt with it. I talked to one of my good friends, David Thornton. Shout out to DT.
Mm-hmm.
He's the head of, he's the VP of player engagement for the Indianapolis Colts. Someone that I respect and admire in this business, man. We played together for the Titans,
mm-hmm,
but I someone I got a lot of respect for. So they kind of gave me some tips, along to how not only I can take care of myself during this time, but I can serve and take care of the players and just kind of lead them through this time and just be there for them.
Right. No, I appreciate you. That is those transitions are never
absolutely.
good. Yeah, I went on a college level. I've seen the coach, my head coach, Tom Herman, gave me the first opportunity. Went to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had an interim coach. Then we went through coaching hires. Then we ended up hiring our OC.
Wow.
It was just for 2 weeks. It was a lot because you're getting
a lot.
Calls from everybody.
You get calls and it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, you're like, man, I don't know.
Really, I'm reading the news. I'm looking at Twitter just like you looking at Twitter.
Man, I was on Football Scoop so strong. Like, I'm sitting there trying to, I used to show up early when as Coach Herman left, and because they interview and you trying to
mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm putting faces to hey, that's old buddy, that's the defensive coordinator at
Yeah.
Cal, or that's so and so, or that's, and so man, that's something. Yeah, you said
it's tough, man.
Yeah,
it's
tough deal. You've been able to do it on both levels, but what would be your best programming or initiative you created overall?
Man, that's a good question, man. When I first got to the Falcons, our team clinician asked me to come speak, because I am so passionate about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
She asked me to come speak to the guys, just to really destigmatize mental health and, using your resources, asking for help when you need it. And so, man, I went and spoke. But during that time, I actually talked about my relationship with my father,
mm-hmm.
or for the better part of my life, the lack thereof of a relationship with my father, for him being incarcerated. And, after that conversation with the players, and it was early on in my tenure with the Falcons, but I had a lot of conversations about fatherhood, a lot of conversations about, hey, my father wasn't around, but I'm about to be a father, or my father was around, these are the things that he taught me, and so organically, man, I formed a partnership with All Pro Dads.
Nice.
And we did a fatherhood roundtable.
Let's go.
And man, so we had players, from all walks of life come and talk about fatherhood and what it means to them being a father. And they got a chance to bring their kids. And at the end of the talk, we did an affirmation service that they was able to pour into their kids in front of everyone. Yeah. And to see the smiles on the kids' faces, it was like, wow, this is what it's all about. But more importantly, to see the smiles on the players' faces when they look at the eyes of their kids. It was awesome, you know. So I'm big on that, on fatherhood. You know, my son, shout out to our GM, man. He allows, you know, my kid, he's around as much as he's want to be around, you know, which is awesome. So a lot of people preach family, but to really experience it and do it, you know, so that way that encourages the guys to want to bring their kids around or get to see the kids run on the field after a game on Sunday. It really, you know, bring it back to a individual and like, hey, I'm a person first. You know, I got real responsibilities. You know, I have to figure out how to manage my relationships, whether I'm married, whether I'm in a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, you know, my relationship with being a son, with my parents, and my relationship with being a father. And how my son and daughter going to look up to me. That's a lot of, it can be a lot of pressure, you know, but hopefully during that fatherhood roundtable, we was able to talk about some tips and some resources to help guide them.
I appreciate that. That's huge. You taking the experience that you have on both ends of the spectrum, you know, how you grew up and also being a father now and just.
Yeah, man. You know, because a lot in this role, you know, we have so many ideas and the thing we want to, hey, I want to push this on the player, I want to push this on the player, but, you know, I think that was my best one because it organically happened. You know, guys was just really coming to seek information about how fatherhood, you know, and it turned out great. So I'm looking forward to doing it again this year.
Awesome. So I heard you talk about mental health.
Absolutely.
And how important it is. You talked about, you know, when you were playing, going through depression. And so I want to say thank you because Fernando Velasco will have a session at the 2024 Player Development Conference.
Let's go.
Where he will discuss mental health and how you can do in a role, different aspects. So you want more information, it's in the show notes. All right, had a shameless plug. All right, so now you talked a little bit about it, but I want you to expound on it. You said when you're looking for someone, and you said you want someone with a heart of service.
Absolutely.
So right now, the Falcons, or you're hiring, you have a position, you send out the application, and everybody's sending in. Outside of service, what else are you looking for in someone to be in your department?
Someone that can be versatile. Someone can be can fit into any environment, you know, because you got to have a special personality. You got to be able to come kick it with the players and communicate with them on a in a certain way, you know. But also you got front office staff that you got to communicate with them in a certain way. You know. But hey, my coaches, the dialogue with them, I got to build a relationship with them also. And the thing that I love about the player engagement role, player development role, is we get the chance to touch every department in the building.
Yep. Yes, sir.
You know, so you gotta love people.
Right. Number one.
You gotta be able to put people first. And I think it's important to understand each department, because if you're working in a certain department, that department is the most important thing to them. You know, so how can you understanding their role more and what they do help better serve the players? And communicating with them in a way that, you know, hey, listen, I love the operations team. I love what y'all do. I love how y'all logistically have everything in order on game day. You know what I mean? So building them up and letting them know how appreciative you are for what they do for the players, because you're going to have an axe one day. And, you know, hopefully when you have an axe, that they will come through for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Now, we're going to move to advice. So,
hold on, speaking of that now.
Yeah.
I don't have a position.
Sorry. Sorry.
Because, but be honest though, man, that's another part of it. Like, you know, just my heart and kind of how I do it. Like, I want to help everybody.
Right.
Like, I wish I could hire every single person. Right. You know, so every time I get one of those messages, like, hey man, you know, I'm looking for opportunity. You got any advice for me, or more so, you know, do you have any openings right now? And, you know, I was blessed to be able to hire one person. And shout out to Lovey Tabner. You know, she's my Player Engagement Specialist. She's doing an amazing job, and I honestly couldn't do what I do without her. So at this time, you know, hopefully it'll grow in the future, but at this time we don't have anything available.
Okay. So you know what he's looking for, but he's not looking right now. Shout out to you, Lovey. Cause Lovey hold it down. Hey, I like that. You gotta let him know, man. Cause that, social media be popping. All right. So what's the best advice you've received in your life?
Is to be you. You know, be you. Everyone has their own makeup of who they are. And God has used each experience, you know, that you have up to this point to mold you into this person. You know, I'm a man of faith. So one of my favorite passages in the Bible is James 1. And it talks about counting all joy. And everything that you've been through up to this point is bigger than you. You know, it's to be a blessing to someone else on the other side of your adversity. And I think that's a definition of this role. You know, I can think of everything that I've been through in my life, and during my time, it was like, why did I have to go through that? Why did I have to go through that? But since I've been in this role, I've been able to be myself and use those experiences to help the people that I serve.
Appreciate you.
So don't try to change up. Don't try to feel like you got to, I can't be Jonas.
Right.
You know what I mean? Me and Ray Jack, our styles are a little different.
Right.
You know, DT, our personalities are different.
Right.
But I am Fernando.
Right.
And I can be the best Fernando that I can possibly be, and hopefully be effective in those that I serve. Awesome.
And then advice you would have to people. There's a lot of people watching this. We got students that want to be in it. We got, you know, people who are assistant directors themselves. We got people in other departments that want to transition to player development, player engagement, whatever it may be. But what would be your advice to those seeking to get in a role?
Serve where you at right now. You know, going back to my time as an assistant director, my biggest job was to be the best assistant director that I possibly could. And whether you're in the space right now or whether you're still seeking to be in the space, you know, it can be found in a local high school. Yeah. It can be found in numerous of recreation departments, you know, somewhere to serve. You know, everybody needs player engagement, player development. You can
need it, everybody.
You know, you don't have to have the big logo attached to you to be doing the work. Right. So find a way to do the work and get good at doing the work, and you know, in the correct time and in the correct season, it'll all come to fruition. You know.
Appreciate you. Well, that's it for today. No, it's not. We got rapid fire. You weren't ready for this. All right, here we go. What's a new habit you're working on right now?
New habit. Well, I'm not even going to say it's a new habit because I'm a big reader. Mm-hmm. I love reading, but you know, so I think, but I had fallen off the bandwagon in my reading. You know, so finding time, carving out time in my day to stay on my reading. You know what I mean? That's something that I'm trying to be consistent at.
Perfect. What are you reading right now?
Right now I'm reading What It Takes to Be Great. The name of it is What Makes the Great Great by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. Mm-hmm. Interesting guy, Dr. Kimbrough, man. He actually took the manuscript from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and did a black choice for that. You know, he did a survey for over 7 years and interviewed, you know, people of color and what makes them great. Mm-hmm. So interesting guy, got a ton of knowledge, man. So I've been learning from him.
Nice. All right, so we are here in Atlanta, as we said, or Atlanta area. Someone walked in. Coach Morris walks in, or Mr. Fontenot walks in and says, "Hey, here's a $50 gift card. Y'all get out for lunch. Where you going?"
Ooh, $50 going to lunch. Man, so I'm only going to say this because I just did it. Mm-hmm. My wife and I, they just built we live in Beaufort, mm-hmm. and so they just did a new Mexican restaurant called Off the Rails. Oh. Great lunch spot. We just went there for lunch. and it was really, really good. So because it's right local in the area,
Right.
we're probably gonna be going back. So right now, that's at the top of my mind. So off the rails in Beaufort, it was a really good
Off the
spot.
rail. Man, I actually went somewhere. Me and my wife went somewhere last night, and this young lady was telling us, I always ask people what's your favorite place to eat.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, it's a taco place down the street.
Oh.
So I was like, because I'm from Houston, and I never realized how much like Mexican food or authentic Mexican food I ate in my life until I moved to Kansas City. And I was like, yo, where is it at? Now there's certain areas. Shout out to the KCK side of Kansas City. There's some good spots there with that. I like that. Now, same question, but he give you $150 at night for dinner, and he said, everybody get out the office.
All right. So our go-to spots for the last few months has been this place in Swanee, Georgia. They have some ties to the team with some players, families owning it. But it's called Unwind and Tap.
Ooh.
Unwind and Tap. And it's a tapping spot.
Right.
And the first time I went, it was a group of 4 of us.
Yeah.
And we literally ordered everything on the menu. We ordered everything on the menu just to be able to try.
Right.
And so the last couple of times I went, it's just been my wife and I.
Right.
You know, now we able to, hey, let's order 5 or 6 dishes that we really, really like. But it's good vibes. It's like a local feel. They have a lot of locals that's in and out of there. But the food is amazing.
Yeah.
The owners are fantastic. So right now, that's my spot.
Okay, perfect. I like that. All right, next question. If you could join a band
Oh,
or music group, past or present, who would it be?
hey man, I'm an Isley Brothers.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I want that old soul, that you know. Let's talk to them. Let's tell the story. So I'm a music guy. I love music. I like to listen to a lot of blues. That's what I kind of do to get away from it. You know, to spend some time by myself, listen to music. But yeah, to answer that question, I go with Isley Brothers.
Man, they still rolling.
Still rolling.
Still rolling. Still got the voice. Still.
Oh,
hit.
man.
I mean, you can hit the notes like you did back in the day, but they still hit.
they getting it done.
They still better than most.
They still getting it done.
Still getting it done. Still getting it done. All right, if you could be in a movie with any actor, who would it be?
Man, you know, shout out to Will Smith. I just finished reading Will's book. It was unbelievable. I got a lot of respect for him. I always had a lot of respect for him, but my respect level for him grew after reading his book. But I got to go Denzel Washington, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's. I'm sure you probably had every person say Denzel.
It's like 6.
You know, but the thing I love about Denzel and I respect about him, you know, they asked him a question one time, "What's your best movie?" And he said, "My next one." And with that's the level of excellence that he goes about his business, that he's thinking about, hey, the next one's gonna be the best one because it's gonna be encompasses everything who I am and what I'm about, man. So I'm looking forward to his next one.
I met him randomly, super randomly. So I was, like you said, being on my feet where I was a high school coach. I reached out to somebody at Tulane. I met him at a Glacier camp or something. The coach was like, hey, y'all want to come work a camp? So I'm like, all right, cool, I'm working camp. They said, hey, can you break down the table, the registration table? You know, they was out there on the field, but I'm doing what I asked to do. So I'm breaking down the table, and it's me and it's a mom there. And the mom, like, I'm kind of breaking down. You know, I got my eyes down. The mom is sitting there. She's like, hey, it's New Orleans. We in New Orleans.
Yeah.
She like, it's too hot out there, like, blah, blah, blah. And all I hear is say, oh, my God, that's Denzel Washington. I look up, and I'm like, and literally he's walking maybe about 10 yards away, chewing gum, like training day chewing gum. So he walks through, and she's like, can I take a picture with you? Can I take a picture? He's like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come right back. I'm going to just go right through here, and I'm going to be right back. And so he comes back in, takes a picture with her. Of course, I'm the one taking the picture.
Wow.
So I'm like, you know me, I'm like, hey, can I
gotta get that picture.
I was like, I got to. And he was like, I gotta go, brother. I'm like, oh. I was like, oh.
Hey, look, I don't get starstruck moment.
Man, and that was before the cameras had the front facing, so I couldn't even.
You couldn't hit the selfie right quick.
I couldn't even selfie when he walked out. And the guy with him was like, he's I can't remember which movie it was, but
he was in the middle of filming.
Yep, he's in the middle of filming. He just wanted to get away because he likes football, because he found out his son actually played at Morehouse, I want to say. So, and I met his son. It's crazy how I met his son. I met his son and they had like so as you said, I'm a man of faith. We had a group, a Christian group in college we go to. They had this convention every year in North Carolina. And so Morehouse is there. We had all these colleges, University of Houston, University, all these colleges there. And they're kind of talking. They're like, hey, everybody introduced. He's like, I'm Denzel Washington Jr.
Wow.
So, everybody kind of like, this guy, and they're like,
no.
Oh, no, that's his son. So got to meet Dad and the son. That was my moment. I was like, man, like hindsight, I'd be like, hey, let me take a picture of all of us together.
Right now.
Yeah.
That was been cool.
That was like like you said, I was straight like, oh snap, like man, I was
starstruck. Like,
yeah. All right, so since we talked about me being starstruck by Denzel Washington, has that ever happened to you?
Man, I really don't get into that, but one person I got a lot of respect for is Steve Harvey. And so Steve Harvey, he hosts a big kids mentoring camp in the summers.
Nice. Didn't even know that.
It's actually he brought like 1,600 acres from Chick-fil-A, and he have over 200 young men from fatherless situations come out, and he have a lot of people out there. With my foundation, I have a foundation also, the Velasco Family Foundation, and I kind of modeled what I do in the summers after him. So I said I'm a reader.
Right.
So his book, Think Like Success and Act Like Success, was the first book that I read cover to cover outside of school, in 2014. And, so I'm always listening to him, his daily motivations, right. Even watching his Family Feud, whatever I can do, Steve Harvey, man, I just got a lot of respect for the adversity, the perseverance that his life has shown, man. And I had a chance to meet him at his camp last summer, and it was just in awe because this vision that I've had to have my own camp.
Right.
Last year I had 25 kids.
Let's go.
And we talked about everything from financial literacy to mental health, the dream building. They got a chance to swim in the lake, fish in the lake, but more importantly, be around some successful men that poured into them. We started each day with a devotional. Mm-hmm. And, this year we're doubling down to having 50 kids at that camp. And we're there for 3 days and 2 nights. And, to be and see him doing the exact same thing that I read about him doing back in 2014, it was in that moment where he was sitting there talking to us, and it was a group of about 5 or 6 of us, and I didn't even have the words to even say. I was just like, dang, so it was more like you listening to their uncle, right? And he was just throwing out game, and I was just sitting there soaking up game, man. But Steve Harvey, that was definitely my moment, man. So, but we did get a picture.
Yeah. You got that done.
I did get a picture. I couldn't ask him any questions, right? Because I couldn't really even think of anything to ask. Because he was just, it's like that uncle, man. He just throwing out different games and giving us so much life advice. So I was just soaking it all in, man. But that was definitely the only time. Now, if I meet Shaq, that'll probably be another moment. That'll be a moment for me. But yeah. So
speaking of Shaq, so let's.
You met Shaq?
So Shaq living in Houston. Shaq lived so a lot of athletes moved to Texas, Tennessee, to Florida because of no taxes.
No tax, yeah.
So I'm outside hooping in our cul-de-sac, and my dad always told me, "Don't come inside for water. Go get water from the hose."
That's right.
So I'm hooping. Me and my homeboy out there hooping. I go run inside to get a glass of water. I come back, basketball sitting there. I'm kind of like, man, where? You know what I'm saying? This is before cell phones. And I'm like, where you go? Like, man, he just kind of dipped off. I ain't go that far. So I'm sitting there, I'm still shooting, and then my other homeboy from across the street was like, oh, I said, what, you see so-and-so? He's like, yeah, man, Shaq just came through on a motorcycle and was like, hey, we're going to the Y, let's go hoop. Like, wow. Shaq was, and so, like, the story was Shaq, like, took it to the Y, the hoop. So I'm like, oh man, I could have
went to the Y
hoop with Shaq
and hoop with him too.
Not just meet him, but hoop with him.
That'd have been cool.
So, cause he out there, right? He be in the community.
Yeah, got a lot of respect for Shaq.
Yeah. So I actually got to meet him, and I got the picture this time.
You got the pic.
So I'm walking across. I parked to go hang out with some friends at this nice hotel in Houston off Westheimer. and I just see, like, I mean, you can't miss Shaq. I'm like, yo, that's got to be Shaq. And so, like, Mr. O'Neal, he, like, turns, and I'm like, yo. I said, hey, I told him the story. I was like, man, I was like 10 years old, and he started laughing. I was like, do you mind if I get a picture? Do you mind if I get a picture? And we kind of in a parking lot. It's like a Walgreens parking lot. He's walking, like, Shaquille O'Neal is walking to his car in Houston, Texas. And so I grabbed somebody random. I was like, hey, you got to take this picture. You got to take this picture. Yeah. So I actually did end up meeting him in person and taking a picture. But, like, that hurt me so much I didn't get to hoop. This was when he was, like, hooping.
Yeah.
I remember I went inside. I ain't going to lie, man. I was like, why you ain't just come ring my doorbell, bro? But my daddy was like, "That boy, what I tell you? That's why you drink from the hose." So that's a funny story there. So next question is, how can we find you? You already mentioned on Instagram, because a lot of people are seeing this. They want to follow you. They want to reach out.
Yeah, Instagram, Kid from Renz. Same thing my LinkedIn is just my name, Fernando Velasco, and Twitter is Fernando Choices. And I'm terrible with social media. That's really one of my goals now is to do a better job interacting and engaging on social media, especially, with my foundation coming down the pipe. So I really want to do a better job there.
Good. Well, that's it. First one in person, man. I can't thank you enough, bro, for taking the time, making the time, coming out to check us out here. No. We're in Atlanta. This is relationships. I hit you up, was like, hey, I'm gonna be in Atlanta for the weekend.
Let's do it.
So
I appreciate you, man. I got a lot of respect for what you do. And really just for the space and player development, just uplifting people and pouring into people, pouring into the leaders that's in the space. So thank you, man.
And so you mentioned it. That's the question I forgot to ask, the rapid fire question. Can you end us with telling us how you do take care of yourself?
Oh, absolutely. A couple things. I'm a morning guy, so I like to wake up in the morning and to just spend my time with myself and my Heavenly Father, so just praying the time. I'm a big journaler. I like to journal, whether it's gratitude, whether it's affirmations, so these are tools and things that I've learned on the other side.
Right.
When I say on the other side, it was a space and a time in my life where, I wasn't prioritizing myself. And, I kind of burned out and got tired. And, now I had to work on my mental wellness in order to take care of my mental health. Because I think people get that confused a lot. Right. Mental health versus mental wellness versus mental illness. Mental health, each and every person deal with mental health.
Right.
We all have to take into account our mental health for every decision that we make. It encompasses everything. Mental illness is when you put a name on it, a bipolar, anxiety, or depression. But mental wellness are the tools and resources that you put around you to build up your mental health. So I think understanding that, I talked about my therapist. I got my guy that I tap in with a couple times a month, and that's just for me, because I look at therapy as a no judgment venting session.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So because so many people, if you're in this space and you got hundreds of people throwing stuff on top of you on a daily basis, what's your release?
Right.
Because not only am I a director of player engagement, but guess what? I'm also a husband.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I'm a father.
Right.
I'm a friend. I'm a brother. I'm a son. Right. I'm a businessman. Right. I have a foundation.
Right.
I have so many other obligations that I have. And so how do you balance? How do you judge all of that? How do you compartmentalize everything and to make it a healthy flow and a healthy rhythm in your life? So I say that to say, my morning routine is huge for me. And then, last but not least, man, I have a group of men that I call my 4 horsemen. Nice. So four older gentlemen that, they're all there for their own reason and for their own purpose. But I pull on them and they pour into me from different areas of my life, whether that's spiritually, right. Whether that's family-wise, business-wise, job-wise, financially, just different, almost like a board of directors, right. That I have that I'm able to to tune into, man. So that's how I take care of me. And, last but not least, just doing things that I enjoy doing. Spending time with my wife. We're getting ready to go to a comedy show here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. I try to look at some water as much as possible. I'm a big water guy.
Yeah.
Big water guy. So no, that's it, man. But it's important. It's really important that you take care of your mental.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I appreciate that you're going to share the conference. And once again, thank you so much. Appreciate the affirming words. Really can't thank you enough for just what you've done in the role, and I really appreciate all you did for Lauren, because Lauren's like my little sis. She called me Unc, my little niece, and so I appreciate you for that.
No, she's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I always say, yep.
Don't leave me hanging.
No, my bad. As I always say, go out and create generational impact. Don't wait, create that generational impact today.